Welcome, everyone, to Week 15 Legit Fired Up. I'm your host, Too Stupid to Win, and I'm joined by my partner, Mars Utah. How we doing, my brother?
Oh, another fantastic day in the metaverse here. Just trying to get legit fired up on a Saturday morning. How about you, sir?
Absolutely. And this week, Week 15, you have Saturday games, 3 games today, and then you have the rest of the slate, Sunday, Sunday night, and Monday. So you can do some shopping today, some early football legit shopping, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah, what do we have? The 49ers and the Seahawks off the board from Thursday night?
Yep, 49ers Seahawks off the board. Everybody's off their buys. No more buys for the rest of the season. It's playoff crunch time. 3 games today: Indianapolis, Minnesota, Baltimore, Cleveland, and Miami and Buffalo. Now, Miami, Buffalo, we'll get into that, but that's interesting. Same with Cleveland, Baltimore. But I think the weather's going to be worse for the Buffalo game.
Yeah, I'm in that neck of the woods, sort of, and we've been getting dumped on for a couple days, so it could be interesting out there in Orchard Park for sure, and definitely affect the style of play for the Dolphins.
Absolutely. I mean, they had heaters when it was 55 degrees on their sideline. What are they going to do in 13-degree weather?
Yeah, kind of flipping the script from when they tried to put the Bills in their home turf in the sun in the beginning of the year. So we'll see if that plays the other way.
From sweat out to freeze out.
Exactly.
So what we try to do here on Legit Fired Up is give you insights into some strong plays for the Upland NFLPA Mementos, which could help you get fire stats, which will help you in your collections, and then the fantasy games when they work properly. We can't control that, but we're here to give you our football knowledge and how you can apply it to your NFLPA legits. Mars and I have long histories in fantasy football and daily fantasy sports, so we were always looking for a way to leverage that knowledge and help the Upland community with this knowledge.
Yeah, for sure. Love getting it out there, and yeah, happy to see Upland gamifying it a little bit. Yeah, hopefully the results get a little more consistent here, but love the new additions, layers they're going for with the legits.
Hey, just remember, it's in beta. It's in beta.
Yes.
It's in beta. Week 15 injury report. I didn't have time to put the normal injury report together. Busy, crazy week as we approach the holidays. But some of the big highlights to talk about this week. They've already declared Lamar Jackson out with the knee. They said that Hurley's clearing concussion protocol, so he'll be there. That's the big one from that game. From the Dolphins game, Jeff Wilson's questionable with the hip, so that could be Mozart could have a big game there based off of that. And then looking at the Saints-Falcons game, you have nothing that really jumps off the board that you'd be out looking for. And remember, as always, we have the injury link, so you can keep up to date. So who's injured, I would recommend pulling up the injury report while you're memento shopping, so you don't pick up somebody that won't be playing in the game, because the mementos are more expensive than your essentials by a lot. So you want to make sure that the UpX you're investing is going to give you some fire stats and they're going to participate in the game. Doubtful Steelers, Kenny Pickett's out with a concussion. DJ Moore for the Panthers is questionable with an ankle. And then Chase Claypool's out for the Bears, but he hasn't done much there.
Yeah, I see, not that anyone should be buying him for any kind of fire stats this season, but it looks like Russell Wilson is touch and go also. And,
yeah, he's out with a concussion, and Brett Rippon's named the starter already.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's and yeah, also it looks like T. Higgins, he got me last week. So if you're going for some of these guys, be real careful, because he was an all go to play, and then he didn't at the last minute and got me a big fat goose egg. So
yeah, I got hit with the T. Higgins goose egg in some leagues and in some fantasy daily lineups.
So yeah, definitely keep your eye on these injury reports, because they change quickly.
And for the Houston Texans, I mean, bad offense, but still, if you were a Texans fan, I'm sorry, been a Browns fan forever. So, but Dameon Pierce is out, Nico Collins is out, and Brandon Cooks have all been ruled out already.
Yes, and that who knows with the way the Texans are, they'll probably win that game. I know we were all over last week, Dallas absolutely crushing the Texans, and that was way more of a game than it should have been. So
Yes.
don't write those guys off, I guess. But yeah, it looks like their whole offense is essentially out. So if you want to take a chance, get yourself some Rex Burkhead or something, and you might get a steal.
Yeah. My Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence is questionable with his toe, but there's no challenges to him playing. He played last week. Not worried there. And then Corey Davis and Mike White are out for the Jets.
Okay, Mike White's official, huh?
Yeah, that's official.
Okay.
He's
I'll
out with
cross
his
him
rib.
off.
They're going to start Zach Wilson.
Okay. And yeah, just to remind people, Kyler Murray last week tore his ACL or MCL, so he is done for the year for the Cardinals. So stay away from him as well.
Yeah. And watch Marquise Brown. He's battling an illness. There's been an illness running around the league this year that's just like decimating teams leading up to the game. So, yeah, well, watch Marquise Brown's status. And I downgrade his abilities with Colt McCoy as the quarterback versus Kyler there. And Cortland Sutton's still nursing his hamstring for the Broncos, and he is out also. Devontae Parker is out for the Patriots with a concussion. Ramondre Stevenson is questionable with his ankle. Jacoby Myers is questionable with his concussion. So the Patriots are struggling themselves.
Man, banged up this week. Lots of guys.
Yeah. And Josh Jacobs is questionable with a quadricep and a hand, but he had extra rest this week, so he should be good to go. And Hayden Hurst for the Bengals is out. And questionable is Tyler Boyd, his finger, T. Higgins, his hamstring. And I think those are the biggest. Those are the last big names that we have available. Oh, and then, yeah. Yep, those are the last big names available on the injury report.
Yeah, make sure you do your homework. Lots of pitfalls out there if you're not paying attention.
Yeah. Games of the week, we like to highlight the games that have a projected overall score total of 45 points or higher. We have more than we had last week. Last week we had 4. This week we have 6 games that are popping off, but nobody's over 50 this week. Vegas lines get a little tighter as you get later in the season. And then, yeah, people are just banged up and a little more prepared for the games because they have all season tape on you.
Like the Cincinnati Bengals?
Yes.
Walk like an Egyptian?
Yes. I like that reference there. Now, interesting thing is Kansas City Chiefs, Houston Texans. So, hey, last week, as Mar said, we talked about Dallas just going to blow them out of the water. Kansas City does spread the ball around, so you never know who's going to hit. You know, Kelsey could hit, or it could be McKinnon. And they've been changing the way that they use, how do you say it, Pacheco? Pacheco, yeah, Pacheco. They changed the way that they've been using Pacheco and McKinnon. Looks like Andy Reid's trusting McKinnon more, putting him in from the 20 to basically in the red zones and also in the 2-minute drill offense, and they're keeping Pacheco in between the 20s. So unless he breaks free for a longer run, he's going to have a harder scoring opportunity there for Kansas City.
Yeah, quite interesting what they've been doing with that backfield. McKinnon was getting the majority of the snaps for the season, but not many stats. And now it seems like he's starting to pile up the stats more as well. So definitely seems to be Andy Reid's most trusted running back for the Chiefs is Jerick McKinnon.
Yeah. And then Philadelphia Eagles, Chicago Bears. That's an interesting one. You got 2 very mobile quarterbacks. But what Philadelphia has been doing, they play to their opponent. So Chicago gives them, sorry, excuse me. If they give them enough to run, you could see another Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders tear it up. Miles Sanders has either been super hot or meh.
Yeah. The Eagles, like you said, they do exploit those weaknesses. They went up against my Titans, who are good on the run defense, so they decided to explode it, passing the ball. So yeah, they seem to be a buzzsaw there for sure.
And then Justin Fields could give you stuff, but that's not what you want for the fire stats for the quarterback. He'd be a great running back, but not so much for the quarterback. So as tempting as it is to click on buying that memento to get those fire stats, unless you're just a Justin Fields fan and like collecting them, that's where I'm at with him.
Yeah, there's always that factor. I mean, he could get you 3 out of 4 fires, but yeah, him going for 300 passing yards this week is probably pretty doubtful.
Yeah. Dallas Cowboys, Jacksonville Jaguars. Once again, you got the two-headed monster there with Zeke and with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Jacksonville, you got a wide array of weapons there. Well, I wouldn't really call them weapons. You got a lot of character players that will get you some points.
Yes, and last week the giant explosion from Evan Ingram that somehow put him into like the third position on the season for tight end points of one game. So it's very unpredictable with who's going to pop off for the Jags.
Yeah, and I had that recency bias with him when I was looking at lineups. He would fit salary-wise in the daily fantasy aspect of it, and I'm just like, I always put this guy in, and he never does anything. And that was one of the keys to landing atop of the leaderboard last week, was having him in your DFS. So you never know with the tight end position.
Yeah, it's definitely a wasteland and a dice roll at the same time.
So Indianapolis Colts, Minnesota Vikings. Indianapolis has been pretty bad with Jeff Saturday in as the head coach, but he has gone back to Taylor, getting over 20 opportunities a game. So that's a good opportunity there. But Minnesota does have a strong run defense. A lot of people will gravitate towards Pittman, but Pittman just doesn't set up well. A sleeper there could be Paris Campbell with the way that he's utilized and the way Minnesota's defense is set up. So Paris Campbell or Pierce will be where I would target the Indianapolis Colts if you don't want to pay up for Taylor.
Yeah, I agree. Paris Campbell kind of starred because of the way they use him with sort of like screen passes as a version of the run game. So, like you said, that could match up really well with the Vikings.
Yeah. And then Vikings, TJ Hawkinson, and of course the stud Justin Jefferson. Cook, he's got a good shot at usage, and he'll have the 20 plus opportunities. He hasn't really popped off for over 16 fantasy points a season. He really hasn't pushed the fire stats either, but it's Dalvin Cook. Sooner or later, he's got to explode. He always has one 40-point explosion game a year.
Yeah, it seems like he's due for sure. Not that he's had a bad season, but he's just kind of been plugging along with those average numbers. So against this somewhat down Colts team, this could be the week.
And that segues right into King Henry with the Tennessee Titans. He usually has one of those crazy games, and that's yet to happen this year too.
Yeah, he was on pace last week, it seemed like, against his favorite team to go off against the Jags. But I think he had 119 yards in the first half and 2 in the second half. So very interesting what's happening with the Titans. I know as a fan, we just fired the GM in the middle of the season, which is kind of rare for a team that's gone to the playoffs every year lately.
Yep.
So definitely some internal struggles there.
Yeah, but when you trade away your star receiver and he comes back and smokes you, like, what were you thinking? And then the Chargers, Mike Williams back, and then you have Austin Eckler and Herbert. So nothing much there for the Chargers. They're solid picks.
Yeah, their passing game could exploit the Titans a bit. There's some injuries in the Titans. They lost the middle linebacker David Long, who's really good in coverage. So, those Chargers pass catchers could have a little bit of a bump.
And then you got the banged up Cincinnati Bengals versus I don't even know what to call Tampa Bay right now this year, but they're a shell of their Super Bowl selves.
Yeah, floundering a bit. That score last week was shocking. So a little hard to rely on those guys right now.
Yeah. So those are the game of the week. Some players to target there. Went kind of too far into that there. I just get excited about talking about football and potentials and what to play. So sorry about that. Offense, quarterbacks that we haven't talked about. We're looking for quarterbacks that get us 300 yards, no interceptions, a QB rating of 102 touchdowns.
Yeah, I have. Well, I had Mike White as my sleeper. I wasn't sure if he was going to play or not. So obviously he's out. So we're going to scratch him off. I'm not sure if I would give Zach the same. Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson, the same potential as Mike White. So I'm just going to kind of scratch him off. But they are going against Detroit. Obviously, he's going to be big ticket, but I had Joe Burrow notched out of Tampa Bay after they got worked last week, and Jared Goff to keep an eye on because they are always putting up points. And as much as people like to write off Jared Goff, he's very good in the QBR department. He's not throwing many interceptions this year, so he's surprisingly efficient in the numbers that you're looking for Fire Stats.
And I find that interesting. Sean McVay's the genius coach out there for the Los Angeles Rams, but yet he couldn't get Goff to do what Goff's doing in Detroit. So I don't get it. But anyway, he's in a good system, and it seems to be working out for him. And Joe Burrow always comes back firing after a disappointing loss. The only other ones, you could have Josh Allen, but with the snow and the wind, I think you might see more of a ground and pound game there. So the only one that really stands out this week that could hit the fire QB that you haven't mentioned would be Patrick Mahomes for the Chiefs. And Dallas has a strong defense, so I'm not even going to go with Trevor Lawrence because he's spotty. So, yeah, and then maybe Herbert.
Yeah, tough week at quarterback. Herbert could definitely go off. Just to touch back on Josh Allen, he has been throwing a lot of interceptions the last few games. So that's kind of why I knocked him down the board a little bit. Even if he puts up the other stats, he could throw an interception or two.
Good point. I forgot about his interceptions lately.
Yeah, something strange there the last 4 or 5 games with him getting a little loose with the ball.
Yep. All right, what you got for running backs?
So it seems to be a show favorite every week. Top of my list, Tony Pollard, of course.
Yeah.
He the longest rush category really makes you zero in on some of these guys more than just the overall number. So he has the potential to, push the average yards and the longest rush every week really solidly, and get a couple touchdowns because of the receiving. So I have him top of the board. You mentioned Miles Sanders earlier. I think they could get up with a big lead and be running the ball a lot, so he could be a good play. And a somewhat sleeper, hopefully a lower price for a running back. I have Brian Robinson on Washington versus the Giants, notched out as potentially having a big day.
Yeah, I do like those. And with our show favorite, Tony Pollard, I mean, the longest rush, he's capable of breaking a 40, 50, 60 yarder anytime he touches the ball. So it gets you rushing yards there, brings up your rush average and the multi-scores. It's just, I'd be surprised if his momentum's not hard fought over each week. And then other than that, I don't see Casey's got that split backfield. Nobody jumps out there. Yes, they'll probably run and pass. Pachiro, I think, has the potential of going over 100 yards, but I'm not sure it would have to, which would play in as the wild card because he'd have to break something. So that would give him the longest rush. And then if he gets a passing one, his targets have gone down. He's a wild card long shot play for there. That's just what I'm saying there.
Yeah, rough week for running backs. As you said, Josh Jacobs is a little banged up, and Austin Eckler on the Chargers, I think, could have a big day, but a lot of that could come in the passing yard department against the Titans. So kind of a chancy play there for the Fire Stats.
Yeah. So running backs really thin this week. Over to the pass catchers.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to tight end, always it's hard to get him off the top of the list, but Travis Kelce, if you want to pay up, he could do some really quick damage in that Texans game and get you there. And potential sleeper at tight end for a lower price. I kind of like Gerald Everett for the Chargers against the Titans. Titans have a fairly bad passing defense, and as I said, they're missing one of their coverage linebackers as well, who usually match up with a tight end. So I think Gerald Everett has the potential for some yardage there. Wide receivers, Devontae Adams, I like against Las Vegas. We have a bit of a grudge, or for Las Vegas against New England, bit of a grudge match there, but he seems to be always putting up numbers.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see what New England does there because they try to take away your best player, and you have Josh Jacobs and you have Devontae Adams, and there's multiple games where they've gotten multiple fires each, and then or the other game, one of them gets it, a multiple fire game. So that's always interesting. It's like if you can get in there and get them both, but they're pricey.
Yeah, yep. Also pricey, but we talked about the injuries with the Bengals, so I think Jamar Chase could be in for a huge day, especially with the other two guys banged up a little bit, and also like Garrett Wilson for the Jets against Detroit. A little less now with the Mike White injury, but he's been really showing out for a rookie lately.
Yeah, I downgrade Wilson once Zach Wilson gets in. I downgrade Garrett Wilson with Zach Wilson. The Wilson duo just doesn't work there in the Jets. When he had Mike White thrown to him, he was averaging just under the amount of targets that Devontae Adams was getting each game. So I downgrade him here. Dallas is a crapshoot, CeeDee Lamb. Michael Gallup could be a sleeper because he's a boomer bust type guy there.
And they also, who knows how much it's going to affect them, but I saw they added T.Y. Hilton to the mix in Dallas this week as well.
Yeah, I did see that too. And then Devonta Smith from the Philadelphia Eagles. He seems to, that's a boomer bust too. He'll flirt right around those 5 receptions, and he usually has a good long one and for a touchdown. So if teams are focusing on AJ Brown in Philadelphia, Devonta Smith is usually her next go-to guy.
Yeah, it could be a good sneaky play. Keep your eye on Tyler Boyd, but if he suits up, he could be a lower priced option for Cincinnati, but he's a little more banged up than I thought when I made my list here. So keep an eye on him.
Yeah, it's hard to catch balls with a broken finger.
Yes. Unfortunately, Tyler Lockett's going to be dealing with that in the future.
Yes.
So, all right. Yeah, that's all I had really for pass catchers.
Which defenses jump out to you this week?
I'm liking Kansas City against Houston. You never know who Houston's going to play at quarterback. We said, Dameon Pierce is injured. So as an individual player, I like Chris Jones for Kansas City, but he seems to be dealing with this mysterious illness on Friday. So keep an eye on if he's actually going to play or not. I also like Max Crosby for the Raiders against New England. He really gets a lot of tackles for a sack artist. He's on the high end for total tackles and sacks, so that's an interesting combination for him there when you're looking for fire stats in the tackles department and sacks. And a bit of a sleeper, I kind of like Montez Sweat for Washington against the Giants. Daniel Jones is in the top of the league for taking sacks for a quarterback. A lot of good defenders there, but I think on the lower end, Montez Sweat could have a good week for Washington against the Giants here.
Yeah. So, I like Washington's defense. The Giants have given up 44 sacks on the year. That's tied for the 3rd most sacks in the league. Also, I like Minnesota's defense because the Colts have given up the most sacks in the league so far at 46 sacks. They're tied with the Rams. And then surprisingly, Philadelphia's defense, Justin Fields has been sacked 42 times. And depending on which Tampa Bay defense shows up, you could go with Tampa Bay's defense because now I don't like that because Joe Burrow would still tear him up for over 300 yards. So scratch that one. But yeah.
Yeah, the Buccaneers are a bit of a conundrum this year for sure. And then, you mentioned a couple of the games. I keyed out defenders in those games for the pass defense. I like Harrison Smith for the Vikings against Indianapolis. He gets a lot of tackles and is getting quite a lot of the interceptions. So, he could pick off Matt Ryan in that game. And also like Eddie Jackson for the Bears against the Eagles, possibly getting into the mix for those same things. And a bit of a sleeper, probably lower price, is Jonathan Jones for the Patriots against the Raiders. Derek Carr not having a good year, so he could possibly get an interception there, and looking at cornerbacks with a lot of tackles to fill out these fire stats. Anybody jumping out for you in the secondary?
Yeah, I slacked on my secondary research, but I like how you passed it back and gave me the option. I failed.
Yeah, no, it's interesting there because the interceptions with the tackles, really seems to benefit safeties more than cornerbacks because corners
Absolutely.
don't get a lot of tackles. So it's just some things to think about there. Safeties with lots of interceptions seem to be better plays.
Yeah. All right, now to our favorite segment, snapping and kicking.
Woo, the best. Let's see if we found some good names. I think you've been beating me out in the name department lately.
I was surprised. I was looking at the kickers for 50 to 59 yards with attempts and makes, and you got Las Vegas, Dallas, and is that Cincinnati? Chase McLaughlin kicks for Cincinnati. Yep. So they got 11, 9, and 10 attempts respectively from 50 to 59 yards, and 9 of 11, 7 of 9, and 7 of 10. The only one that kicks a lot of 40 to 49 yarders is Chase McLaughlin. So that's Cincinnati's a good way to go. Oh, he kicks for Indianapolis. Never mind. I'm sorry. Yeah. I couldn't picture it. Yeah, McPherson, McLaughlin. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, Evan McPherson kicks for Cincinnati. Chase McLaughlin kicks for Indianapolis. So they don't move the ball as much. So he's kicking some long field goals, and that leads me to my long snapper of choice this week, and that would be Luke Rhodes. He doesn't have the best name, but he does have Matt Hack as a punter who kicks a lot of balls inside the 20, and he has Chase McLaughlin as his punter. As his field goal kicker. So I like Luke Rhodes. So what kind of name do you have for me this week?
Yeah, so we'll start out my my long snapper of choice this week. We're gonna go with the game that we've been talking about, and I assume we'll have a lot of scoring to fill out some of these numbers from his kicker. But I like Thomas Hennessy on the Jets. Tommy Henney, they're going against the Lions, so they should put up some field goal numbers. Hopefully some extra points. They'll get in the end zone a lot, so it'll make it good for their kicking game. And in the kicking department, I went along sticking with that and highlighted young Jeezy, Greg Zuerlein.
Yes,
who's not so young anymore, but one of my favorite nicknames. He doesn't stand out too much in any individual department, but as I said, I like the matchup and the extra points made and things like that should work out in his favor just based on the matchup. And then for punters, sticking with the tried and true, top of the list, my favorite here from the Titans, Ryan Stonehouse.
Yeah. That is, yeah, Tommy Townsend and Logan Cook also.
Yeah, but Tommy Townsend's on the Chiefs.
Yes.
Really getting to know my punters and long snappers
I know.
here.
Once they got rid of the kicker in FanDuel and DraftKings, you didn't pay as much to it, and I've convinced a handful of leagues that I play in to get rid of the kicker itself. So you haven't had to do your kicker research, because it always sucks when somebody's kicker goes off for 30 and you lose.
Yeah. So we dropped the kicker there in the podcast league, and so not paying too much attention to the kicking game.
Yeah. Yes. Got anything else before we get out of here for this week?
I don't think so. I think we covered it all, as we've said a bunch of times. But yeah, when you're buying those high-priced mementos, make sure you have the injury report pulled up at the same time. Be careful. Lots of pitfalls out there this week, and also a lot of value buys. So best of luck to everybody out there in the metaverse.
Yeah. Everybody have fun picking up your mementos this week. Let us know any content you want to see from us. Leave that in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. Have fun. Be safe, and we'll see you soon in the metaverse.